First thing I want to say is an extremely well done to all of our 84 candidates for stepping forward, for putting themselves forward, and for helping sow the seeds for the party for the future. So we'll give them a round of applause, please. Personally, a bit like the proclaimers, it wasn't quite 500 miles, but I did walk over 50 miles delivering these leaflets through people's doors. And one of the things I learned is I definitely have a newfound respect for posties, because some of those letter boxes down here, my back, some of the ones up there are too tall for me to go in. I mean, trying to find them as well. And then the dogs. Anyone encountered any interesting dogs? I did, but most of them weren't quick enough for me. It was in and out. So yeah, I also tested out Facebook campaigning and did some Facebook advertising, which was quite good. So this time, this is the second election that I've been involved in. The first was obviously the Scottish ones. In that, I got 325 votes in the constituency, which was 0.8%. So the 325 seems a big number, but the 0.8% was pretty low. And this time, when the first results came out on the first votes, I found out that I had 59. And I was kind of like, oh, that's a bit disappointing after all those miles walked. But actually, that was 1.3% of the vote. So that is a big step forward. And it's what we've got to keep doing. But what will be really interesting is to see the second, third, and fourth votes when all that information comes out. Because I'm pretty sure, and the ones I saw, for the Dundee Council, they put it out, had a look at those last night, and where someone was getting 81st votes, they'll get 122nd, 183rd. So I think more people will be getting to know us, and that was the whole purpose of this. Like I said, sowing the seeds for the future. One of the other things I learned is, although I did come last, and I did get the wooden spoon, these come really, really handy for putting these letters in a letterbox. So I will be keeping mine and using it in the future. And I only had 2 women chase me down the street, giving me my leaflet back, shouting obscenities, which was good, a step forward. So that's enough about me, enough about the campaign, and I'm sure you've all had, those that have campaigned have had some great experiences and some interesting ones as well. But let's move on with the programme, and to start with, I want to introduce Michael, who's going to come and talk to us first.
Thank you very much, Don. Good morning, good to see you. We started on this journey shortly after the Holyrood elections last year, and we've arrived here today, and we did it. Well done. And we did it because we're a political party and we have to get involved in the elections. And so what I've found is we've got these terribly pulverized communities following the pandemic, and just atomized individuals who are at the mercy of the technocratic state. And this is how they vote. They vote for further protection by the state. And yet we know that we have the solutions to many of Scotland's problems, and that our message is an affront to many people. It's against the cultural zeitgeist. But hear it, they must. They must hear our message, and we must keep reinforcing that message. And we don't know the effects of the election on the passive voter, the one that didn't turn up. But if you remember, when we first started planning this, we wanted 60 candidates so that we could have a party election broadcast. And that was another way that we were going to raise awareness about these solutions that we have, these simple solutions that we have for the benefit of Scotland. And we got the 60, and then we got 70, then we got 80, and we finally ended up with 84 as more and more candidates came forward. But that was the first key target, and I'm delighted that Gary is with us, the star, the producer, the director, in his beautiful, calm voice and his excellent filming skills and his administrative skills to get this through past the BBC. So I want a big thank you for Gary, and I would like Gary to say a few words.
Hello, everyone. It's like the Oscars or something. It's great. You're not going to slap me, are you, Michael? Oh, I basically got involved in the broadcast because I was considering being a candidate in the elections, and I see myself more as a creative, artistic type and not really your standard local councillor. So I sent some videos to Michael and to Richard just to give them a flavour of who I was as a person, and that's how I got roped into being on the BBC and the STV, and it was really exciting to be able to produce something for proper telly. So I just want to thank everybody that's been involved in these elections, and really well done for putting yourself out there. It's a bit of a unusual thing to put your face out there, and there was a little bit of concern as to what might come my way. As Michael's explained, the policies are quite an affront to people, although it's wonderful sanity in a world going mad, isn't it? But it's so important that if you're like me and you were slightly concerned about putting yourself out there and representing the party and waving the flag, I just want to report back that there was nothing that came my way. None of the emotional responses that I expected might pepper my day and worry about what people might be saying about me and things like that. None of it. It was full of encouragement, really. I haven't signed any autographs, but I mean that's fine. And none of the other candidates recognised me at the polling station or anything like that, so that's a shame. Maybe I'll do another one for the next campaign, who knows. Yeah. Thanks very much, anyway.
Thank you very much indeed, Gary. Just a couple of other thank yous. I want to thank Elizabeth up in the northeast because registering all these candidates is a real struggle, the 84 candidates, and Elizabeth was a great help up in the north, and we were talking on the phone most weeks, and she was quite new to the political system, having come back from Canada. So a big thank you to you, Elizabeth. Steve has always been a great support in the Fife area, and very, very experienced chair, and we'll hear more from him later. And I want to thank him for the way he's guided through the Fife group. Neil, our secretary, always unflappable and likeable and positive, like most of Scottish Family Party members. Hamish, who was a revelation down in the borders, taught us a lot about campaigning and organising for campaigns. Great to see new people like Karen and her husband, taking this on as an act of witness. And once again, we don't know the effects. There may be someone that saw our leaflet, is waiting to come forward, and maybe a future leader of the party. So it's great to see new candidates who I hope go on to greater things and perhaps help us in the Westminster elections. But before getting carried away with myself, we're going to look at the figures now. So last night, Phil Holden and Richard were doing some number crunching, some data crunching, and they've got some preliminary top-line findings for us. Philip.
So I think one of the really exciting things about this election has been the sort of breaking of the silence that we've had with having our campaign videos and things like that on the television. It's something that allows people to begin to speak up for themselves and to begin to speak up for the views which they hold. When we look at the Holyrood election last year, our average for the list across the country was 0.59%. So in this election, we rose to 1.34% for first preference votes. So that's an increase of 127%. And to put that in perspective, in the Holyrood election, we had enough flyers to put one through every door. We're not quite sure if a flyer got through every door, but the Royal Mail were tasked with getting it through every door. In this election, only 1/3 of our candidates were active candidates, meaning that they had flyers to put through doors and things like that. So that shows you that the profile of the family party is steadily rising. From people who work in advertising, I hear that people need to hear of something like 9 or 10 times before they think about buying it or thinking about voting for a party or something like that. So a lot of the work which we're doing is in that area. I want to speak about our non-campaigning candidates. So we asked people to put themselves forward just to give other people the opportunity to vote for what they believe in. And this was sort of the lowest tier that you could be in terms of standing for the family party. And really the results that were reaped by these candidates are absolutely incredible, just by standing, just by putting your name down. The lowest that we got was in North Berwick, where we got 0.4%. And when you compare that with like our average of 0.59% across the country last time, that's in the very lowest place that we were getting that. Our average for the non-campaigning candidates was 1.27%. Our highest, William Barclay for Moray, he got 2.88% as a non-campaigning candidate. And for reference, in the Holyrood elections, you can probably get in with about 5% in some seats. So this was somebody who didn't do any campaigning. You can see sort of how things are going there. Graham Elder got 2.64% as a non-campaigning candidate, as did Jacob Kapanik. He got 2.6%. They were both in the Aberdeen area. And Brian Lally for West Dunbartonshire also got 2.6%. And so these are... Those figures just show us some of the relative strengths of the wards rather than the relative strengths of the candidates. And then we had our most active candidates. These were people who had pretty much enough flyers to flyer every house within their region. Absolutely incredible work. You're hearing of Don saying that he walked 80 kilometers to deliver all of his flyers. Was it? Yeah, 80 kilometers. Sounds phenomenal, doesn't it? 50 miles. So we had Don Marshall, Gordon Bryce, Jonathan Richardson. He defeated Alba in his ward. Alistair McIntyre, Andrew Muir also defeated Alba. Stephen Saunders, Richard Lucas, Danny Smith also defeated Alba. Michael, who got 2%. Phil Tanzer, who got 2.9%. And Hamish Goldie Scott with our highest result, 3.5%. So it gives us a very interesting, so the average campaigning candidate got 1.9%. And so you can see that the non-campaigners got 1.27, and that meant that for campaigning you saw roughly a 40% increase in the number of votes that you got as first preference votes. So that's what you were getting for that extra work. And though our numbers are small at the moment because we're in the 1s and 2%, as we campaign, as the Scottish Family Party becomes more familiar, when we start seeing that kind of 40% increase, that's going to be something quite substantial, 46% increase. In terms of trajectory, in the Holyrood elections, we think that this is most similar to the constituency vote. We stood 7 candidates in constituencies in the Holyrood election, and they got an average of 1% of the vote. And so we've seen this rise to about 1.9% of the vote, so nearly doubling there for a similar kind of level of campaigning. And Richard stood alone in 2019. Again, he campaigned very hard, and he got 0.45% of the vote. And so that shows that sort of doubling election by election. If we can maintain that, or maybe even just come in slightly below that, we've got the Westminster election, and then we've got the next Holyrood election, then you can see that in some of the wards, there's a very real possibility of getting candidates in. Alba, by contrast, their highest was 8.1%. That was by no means what they were getting overall. They lost all their councillors. They went from being 3 times higher than the Scottish Family Party to being 1.5 times higher than the Scottish Family Party in terms of first preference votes. And we beat them in Bishopbriggs, Dumbarton, Paisley, Dunfermline, West Fife and Old Aberdeen. We beat the Lib Dems, John Hendry, beat them in Kilsyth. Matthew Lynch beat them in North Ayrshire.
Skip it now, it's like really wet.
And Richard was telling me yesterday that even for the established parties like Labour, if they're standing a candidate in a ward where they haven't had a candidate before, then the first year they stand, they probably get about 2% of the vote. So even established parties standing for the first time in the council election, their votes are sort of comparable to where we are. And so looking forward to the Westminster election, we've got the opportunity to stand candidates for 59 wards. And the incredible thing in this election will be that we get, again, free delivery of leaflets. So we had Dom, who was walking 80 kilometres. Richard said there was about 130 man and woman hours put into delivering his leaflets to every home in his constituency. In the next election, we're going to get that delivery done for free. We still have to pay for the leaflets, and we have to pay £500 for each candidate we put forward. So that's going to be about £30,000, I think, in terms of fees for candidates. But we've got that opportunity to really put out literature in a very big way in that election. So I really encourage you to start thinking about that. We'd love to have, in this election we've had many non-campaigning candidates. We'd love to start to see the majority of candidates being campaigning candidates for this election. So something to start thinking about, something to start putting some donations into the war chest for that election. Thank you very much for everyone for their efforts in standing. If you put your name down, or if you walked 50 miles, you've done great things this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed for that analysis, Philip, and some excellent highlights and some real pluses, and there's certainly some momentum, with the party. And I said we'd arrived, we did it, but really, I suppose it's just like getting over a small mountain, and ahead of us is the big Westminster mountain that we have to climb. But when politics starts to get into your blood, for some of the newer candidates, and all those candidates that were non-active, you started saying towards the end, "Oh, I think I wish I had been running a campaign." Once it gets into your blood, you're ready to fight the next election, and more importantly, to fight any by-elections that may emerge, whether they're local authority level or at the Westminster level. When it's in your blood, we're looking for oven-baked candidates to shunt into an area, and where we can back them up with the whole power of the Scottish Family Party. And I must say, I was always encouraged when the members came out to support leafleting, and in an hour, 100 leaflets could get distributed. But we mustn't concentrate too much on the leaflets. There was a great social media campaign. Richard was first class in terms of his fundraising for that, and he was relentless. And once again, the effect of this, or the future effect, the videos that might be picked up and watched, and many of us are here today because we saw Richard with his little items behind him and wondering what on earth they were, watching his sort of podcasts and his live streams, and gradually getting sort of pulled into this party and the great potential of the party. So in the future, these videos will be watched, these tweets, these Instagram posts, and they're there for posterity, and great analysis of the parties and the failings of the other parties. And most of them actually don't realize how dangerous the corruption of young children in schools, and that's why we targeted the local authority elections, because they control the budgets, they scrutinize the budgets, and they approve the sex education programs, and they can insist on their modification, their removal, their change. So that's why we want councillors sitting on these subcommittees of the local authority, influencing policy making and policy decisions. So that's the end of this sort of first session, and so Don will take you through to the following sessions. And those I haven't thanked personally, and I've got this great big list, but I was staggered at the individuals who committed their time and committed their sort of their enterprise and their sort of willingness to work, and responded to these appeals we put into the newsletter. I mean, that was so encouraging, because it is a tough world, the political world. You need a pretty thick skin, and so any support. And I must mention in the background these groups praying for our work and supporting our work. That was really lovely to know, and keeps one going, because there is a lot of disagreement with what we stand for. But the old adage is, if we're not doing our job properly, unless we're getting this sort of bile and hatred. So we're doing it for a greater purpose. these individuals need to know about the obvious solutions to the problems we're facing in Scotland. And we've got the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Gary, for all the work and the support. The stats are great, and I think as more information comes out, we'll definitely get more insights. As I said, the second, third, fourth votes, I think a lot more people were touched by our campaigns than just the first votes. And again, we just need to keep chipping away. It's a slow run, but we need to keep chipping away, and we just need people. Once you put your head above that parapet once you get through that, it's easier. It becomes easier the next time, and you'll get better, and we will get better. I would have said that I would have beaten Alba had they been standing, but actually they were too scared to even put a candidate up against me.
We've had the chance now to look at the second, third and fourth, etc. preference votes from the council election. When we first published our results, we hadn't actually looked at that, but I had a look at it now. Quite interesting. So first preference, 1.35 overall in the 84 wards where we stood. First and second preference, that goes up to 3.3%. First, second or third preference goes up to 6.5%. Now I'd say if someone puts you first, second or third, that is some sort of positive endorsement. They're saying they prefer you to most of the other parties. It might be the first and second vote might have both been for the same party. So someone, for example, might have voted Conservative, and then their second choice party, if you like, was the Scottish Family Party. So 6.5%, I would say, expressing some positivity towards the Scottish Family Party, I think is encouraging. First, second, third or fourth goes up to 8.9%. When you're down to fourth, it's sort of a positive endorsement. It might be a sort of anyone but whichever party they least like. So it's not quite so clear, but it's maybe some sort of positive message there. So 8.9% first, second, third or fourth preference vote. 2 years ago, when we did an opinion poll, we found that only 9% of the population had even heard of the Scottish Family Party, whereas this time 9% are putting us in some sort of reasonably positive position with their preferences. But first, second and third choices, they are definitely a positive disposition towards the Family Party. That's what they're indicating, 6.5%. Now remember, our magic number is 5 or 6%, puts us in a chance with getting an MSP into the Scottish Parliament. So 6.5% first, second or third preference, that's quite encouraging. Now I'm not saying obviously a third preference means they're going to vote for us next time. Doesn't mean that at all, but it shows that they're aware who we are and they've got some sort of positive attitude towards us, which is great. The other thing I'd say about the first, second, third and fourth, 8.9%, on every ballot paper, as part of our description, it said pro-life. So that's 9% of people who are willing to vote for us saying on the ballot paper explicitly we were a pro-life party, which again I think is very encouraging.